In 1943, Joseph Mengele was appointed by Heinrich Himmler to be chief doctor at Birkenau, the supplementary extermination camp at Auschwitz, where he and his staff selected incoming Jews for labor or extermination, and where he supervised medical experiments on inmates to discover means of increasing fertility. His chief interest, however, was research on twins. Mengele's experiments often resulted in the death of the subject. Britannica. In the ongoing pandemic, America has the highest per capita death rate in the world. Who is to blame? According to Robert Kennedy, Jr., Dr. Anthony Fauci is to blame. In fact, Kennedy describes Fauci as a corrupt government functionary responsible for hundreds of thousands of unnecessary pandemic deaths. And all the while, says Kennedy, Fauci has been lining his own pockets, assuring big profits for pharmaceutical companies. Even more shocking, Kennedy depicts Fauci as an American Mengele, as an administrator who facilitated barbaric and illegal experiments on children. According to Kennedy, Dr. Fauci has sanctioned drug companies to experiment on at least 14,000 children, many of them Black and Hispanic orphans living in foster homes. He permitted these companies to operate without oversight or accountability. Under Dr. Fauci's laissez-faire rubric, these companies systematically abused and, occasionally, killed children. Has Robert Kennedy unfairly slandered Anthony Fauci, who in the media has risen to defend the little doctor against these charges? So far, my Google searches turn up nothing, which is odd. We would expect Google to advance Fauci's narrative by underscoring his defenders. Of course, Fauci does not need defenders. He stands atop a massive bureaucracy as the highest-paid U.S. government official, more highly paid than the president. He can destroy medical careers. He can enrich or bankrupt businesses. His power can be used to punish anyone in the medical field who crosses him. Yet now, at this critical moment, who comes to his defense? Fauci has been the media's darling. Yet instead of defending him, there is a deafening silence from the usual suspects. Few have dared to go against the little doctor out of fear. But now fear runs the other way. When Senator Rand Paul attacked Fauci, the media defended the little doctor. But when Kennedy accuses Fauci of being a criminal of unprecedented brutality and corruption, the media acts as if nothing has been said. This is perhaps the most astonishing twist of all. Never have so many said so little about so much. Of course, mainstream media outlets will not advertise Kennedy's book. They do not dare review it. Kennedy's publisher, Tony Lyons, said, "I defy you to find a single case where the #1 best-selling book over a 16-day period has not been mentioned in one mainstream newspaper in the country." We pitched Bobby Kennedy to all of the mainstream media outlets, television, newspapers, and none of those places have even asked to see a copy of the book. So they don't care about the content, and they're not trying to refute any of the claims. What does this mean? The media will not add fuel to the fire Kennedy has started. Yet they will not defend the doctor. Why? Is the mainstream media paralyzed by the Kennedy's name and the credibility of his charges? That must be the right answer, for Kennedy's book is a bestseller and the information it contains has leaked out through various channels. So what does Fauci do? Does he charge Kennedy with libel? Does he defend his reputation in court? So far, Fauci has not directly disputed Kennedy's charges. Instead, he has attacked Kennedy. On 22 December Drive, Fauci responded to Kennedy's 934-page book, The Real Anthony Fauci, by saying, "It really is a shame that he is attacking me in my career. If you look at my career, there are not a lot of people that would be attacking my career, but he seems to do that. It's very unfortunate because I don't think he is inherently malicious. I just think he's a very disturbed individual. And I don't like to have to say that, but it's very, very clear. And it's a shame because he comes from such an extraordinarily distinguished family, many members of whom I know personally, and I was very close to Senator Ted Kennedy, who was such an extraordinary person and a real warrior for public health. And to have RFK Jr. just spouting things that make absolutely no sense. Does Kennedy's book make absolutely no sense? Unfortunately, Kennedy's book explains a lot. Rather, it is Fauci's response that makes no sense. And it is very, very clear that Mr. Kennedy is logical, convincing, and knowledgeable. If Kennedy has his facts wrong, then Fauci should take him to court. He should seek vindication. But Fauci does not do that. Why? Fauci says Kennedy is a very disturbed individual, How so? This is no proper defense, Dr. Fauci. It is, in fact, the kind of reply one would expect from a guilty criminal. That is how I read it. Or am I to understand that America's Dr. Anthony Fauci has become a psychiatrist? That he can diagnose Robert Kennedy as mentally ill, and we are all supposed to bow down and believe? I see no evidence that Kennedy is a very disturbed individual. I see a 934-page book, updated Kindle version, full of footnotes and testimony showing that Fauci is a criminal. If only half the charges are true, Fauci should be put on trial, convicted, and hanged. Attacking Robert Kennedy, Jr. is beside the point. Fauci must defend his reputation by answering the charges. If he cannot, then the wheels of justice should grind him down. I say again, Fauci's answer to Kennedy is unacceptable. The media's blackout on Kennedy is wicked enough, but Fauci's reply is not the kind of reassurance the country needs. Fauci can only be vindicated by answering the charges, but he does not answer them. And so, the little doctor talks like a villain, reacts like a villain, with the smooth delivery of a villain. Fauci's failure to forthrightly defend himself means that we cannot trust anything he says. We have every reason now to believe Kennedy and disbelieve Fauci. The game is turning. If Kennedy's charges against Fauci are true, and if the state does not punish the little doctor, decency would force us to dig up the last traitors executed under American law, the atomic spies, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Decency would compel us to sew them together with fresh body parts in the style of Dr. Frankenstein, revive them by running electricity through them, give them jobs at the Atomic Energy Commission, and apologize for executing them. It's unfair to execute some traitors and reward others. Furthermore, the system is now obligated to establish Fauci's guilt or innocence, for we have too much riding on this issue. And there is one more thing. Fauci's relationship with China needs to be thoroughly and carefully investigated. Given the threat of biological attack from China, we need to separate our medical labs and medical bureaucracy from Chinese nationals at every level. We must unplug China from our pharmaceutical industries and from our doctors, from our science, and from the system that is responsible for defending us during a biological war. For the Chinese Communist Party is our enemy, and we must not lose sight of the ever-present danger of biological attack.